Sex. Oh yeah, you heard me right. No, you're not watching the wrong video. I just happen to be sitting with Tantra expert Don Cartwright, and all I have to say is, you're welcome.
So I know that I just said the word sex, and we're going to get to that, but Tantra isn't just about sex, right? Isn't this big misconception we all have?
Yes, you're right. Sex is a part of Tantra, but it's not all of Tantra. Tantra is actually tools and techniques for us living our full potential in every part of our lives. So it's taking that spark that we feel, that's definitely in sex, but realizing it's in everything that we do, and then learning specific ways that we can work with that energy of aliveness in our love relationships, in our creative projects, with our health, and with our sexuality, and just maximize, just go to the absolute limit.
So is there a certain technique that we can use daily to help us get connected to that sort of creation space?
There are many techniques for connecting every day and feeling that creation space. Tantra contains hundreds, if not thousands, of different practices that are specifically designed to help us feel that kind of ecstasy that we feel like when we're filming or when we're surfing or we're making love. And these techniques are really practical and very basic. I think this is something people don't realize, is that it's not some sort of weird, kind of titillating.
Being in like a position for 3 hours, and does anybody really want to have sex for 6 hours?
Exactly. It's like, it's learning,
Maybe,
but
I mean, if it's really good, maybe you do, I don't know.
time goes like that when you're having a really good time. But I think one of the main things, and I know a lot of people are familiar with mindfulness, how to really soak up the most of every moment. And that's Tantra in a nutshell. So it teaches us how to heighten our sensitivity so that whatever we're doing is orgasmic, literally. And so it's a feeling of feeling like you're just in the flow with whatever you're doing, including making love, and including having a conversation with your beloved. I've had experiences in my own life where it wasn't practical because of wherever we were or whatever we were doing to make love in that moment. But we were feeling close, and because of the tantric tools, I was able to actually experience the feeling of really deep connection and merging with my partner. It sort of puts you in a bubble, but it's not a bubble that's exclusive. It's a bubble that radiates out into the world and starts to, light up your life. You know how it is when you meet a couple that are just really in love, and what a blessing it is to be around them. And this way of life, because Tantra is really a way of life, shows us how that we can be that single person or that couple who's really gifting life through our presence all the time.
And now what about these people who are in these loving relationships, but as with any relationship, right, you hit some plateaus sexually, and then you have these moments of great sex and then a plateau. Are the plateaus good? Is there something that you can do to sort of kind of have a jumping off point to get into that better, great, amazing, mind-blowing,
this is so
life-changing sex?
I love it that you're asking this question, because on the drive over I was just talking about my new book title. It's called Get Back in Bed Now. And it's 7 steps to reconnecting when you've been apart. Because we all go through plateaus. That's part of life. Life is this, we can't always be growing. There are times when we're resting or we're, kind of going within. And when we're in a relationship, or even in our own relationship with our own sexuality, there will be times where we're kind of, it's just kind of, It's not, bells and whistles. And in those times, what we would do from the tantric standpoint is appreciate that more subtle connection. Rather than look for what's familiar or what we prefer, rather than look for the fireworks explosions, we start to fall in love with the humanness of each other and fall in love with the humanness of our own body. And by doing that, we start to sink into deeper and deeper levels and layers in our body of sensitivity and merging and melting, actually. Because fireworks are great, but while I'm screaming, falling off the bed, my partner's a little getting far away. But when we have that moments and we sort of feel like, I'm just feeling really human today, then the heart opens, and then a soul connection can happen that maybe can't happen any other way. So what Tantra teaches us also is to be aware of our preferences for one kind of sexual experience and broaden our repertoire and be willing to be in those places where we feel maybe a little lost or a little in the unknown. We're trying to find each other again. Because usually what happens then is we go to another level.
So do you think that sometimes we put too much pressure on the sex and where we can have that same connection? I think obviously sex is important, but we can have that same connection without it. Do you think maybe we put too much pressure on the sexual part?
Absolutely. I think it's human nature to want to please our partner, and I think that's where it starts first. There might be times where we feel like we just, we want to have a conversation or go for a walk or go surfing together or do something that's very connecting and very intimate and very ecstatic. But we reserve that for sex. I know a lot of people, if they're in a relationship, the sex switches on. If they're out of a relationship, the sex switches off. I mean, how horrible is that?
I know.
Yeah?
So you're saying, a single woman, a single man can still practice Tantra even with themselves to find that openness.
And should, as well as, couples. I think depending on our partner to be our sole source of our sexual fulfillment is also putting a lot of pressure on our partner, right? And again, it's not about going off and being in some kind of wild scenario. It's more, how do we cultivate our sexual energy as an inner resource of vitality, of vibrancy, of acceptance and patience, which really gives a lot of space for a relationship to grow. And how do we keep discovering in those unexpected moments sex in ways that we never really expected it? I was in India once with my lover there, and he was really tired from working all day, and I was feeling really hot and ready to go. And I'm like, come on. And he was so tired, and I felt sort of disappointed. But I decided just to relax and meet him where he was and just lay down on the bed, and we just started talking. And I'm not kidding you, I orgasmed because I had let go and let myself trust what was really happening instead of trying to pressure him into something.
That's pretty great.
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
Because orgasm is actually a natural way of being when we're not uptight and tense. It's actually how we can be all the time.
So it's not exclusive to sex.
And it's also not exclusive to those sort of contractions that we all think of when we think of sex we've seen on films and screens, that there's a tendency to sort of pull in when we're having sexual contractions. There's actually an opportunity with tantric practice to feel orgasm more like this river flowing through our bodies and have it actually open the body. And it's something that we can experience. We're dancing on the dance floor or having a conversation or making dinner together.
Gosh, I want to live my life like you live your life. Sounds very fun and pleasurable. So about people in a relationship or not exploring their sexuality by themselves, that of course brings us to porn. And what is your view on that?
Right.
Do you feel like it's kind of ruined sex in a way?
Well, I think that porn gives us a very unrealistic picture of something that really isn't sex. It's these people are actors, and they're performing something that who knows if it's actually even pleasurable for them. And so our brains are getting imprinted with this imagery, and then there's some part of us that wants to live up to something that's actually not realistic at all. So I think in some ways, I think everything in moderation is great.
Yeah.
A little bit of porn, watching with your beloved, having fun, and just to sort of enjoy the sort of hit of maybe you get creative and think, hey, let's give that a try. Let's try this position. Let's do that. I think that can be really positive. But I think when we start to try to hold ourselves up to an unrealistic ideal, then we stop being really swept away by the details that make our partner who they are, and the subtleties that make sex what it is. And I do feel that for some young people, because there's not as much an opportunity for them to feel confident in dating and exploring their sexuality, that they're going to porn. And then it does lead to some pretty serious sexual dysfunction that can happen where they're not able to become aroused unless they're looking at porn. And that can be really hard on people.
And what about women and their sexuality? Because you talk so much about how your sexuality is it's this beautiful space to create from. And as women, I mean, media has been, knocking us sexually for years. I mean, the history of women and sexuality has been fairly oppressed, I think we can all agree. So how vital is it for us to really begin to have a healthy relationship with that?
Our sexuality, for women and men, but especially for women, is centered in our womb space. Whether or not we still have a physical womb, we always have that energetic space in our bodies around the navel. This is also our center of self-confidence and our sense of who we are, and our sense of being powerful and creative in the world. So as women, by keeping our sexuality alive, we're feeding our self-confidence, we're feeding our sense of self, we're empowering ourselves in a very organic and natural way. And as women too, the more we explore our bodies and our sexuality in many ways, by pleasuring ourselves, by stimulating our senses, having delicious foods and wonderful fragrances and lovely fabrics and beautiful, jewels to look at, that this is actually bringing to life part of our passion and part of our desire. This is what keeps us wet. It's what keeps us effulgent. It's what makes us desire sex and sort of feeling sometimes like sex is something that's constantly coming to us from the outside. What's it like to feel our own sexual strength and feel that, feel our own hunger, and then be able to channel that either with a partner, with ourselves, into our work, even into our home life. And so I feel it's essential for women to feel curious about their sexuality, to try some of these tantric practices and get a taste of what they can cultivate in their own bodies, the power of their body, the power of their orgasm when it's just for your pleasure. Because often a woman, even though she's experiencing sexual pleasure in bed with a partner, may be wanting to orgasm to please her partner, so that her partner feels successful. And so she loses herself, and she may even tense up to make it happen, or maybe there's something else she would like. She would like to have her back stroked, and that's going to open her to another level. So doing these practices, exploring breath, movement, sound, the internal yogas of Tantra, opens up this vast reservoir of aliveness for every woman, whether or not she's sexual in an outward way, because being celibate is also a form of sexuality, and it's a completely valid choice for a woman to make. But she's still generating her own vitality by working with her energy in these ways.
Beautiful.
So one way we could try right now, if you like. You can
Okay.
try.
Ooh.
And everybody can try. And this is for men and for women, so even the men who are watching. So what I'd have you do is just let yourself become aware first of your belly.
Okay.
And you'll notice when you feel your belly, you can have your eyes open or closed. When you feel your belly, usually you feel a little bit of warmth there. It's naturally a warm part of our body. And this will be really familiar to those of you who've done yoga before. It's a beautiful way of starting to boost our sexual energy. So just breathe normally, but when you breathe out, pull your navel in and slightly up. And then when you breathe out, so breathe in normally, breathe out, pull your navel in and up. And what we're doing is we're gently beginning to pull at the legs of the clitoris and the roots of the penis. And just do that a few times. And as you do this exercise, in the beginning we may feel nothing because we haven't tried it before.
Oh no, I'm feeling it.
You're so hot.
Wow, I've never
She's
done this
hot.
on camera.
She's hot. And it's that simple. This is just the beginning of what's possible for us we have this.
You could like do this at dinner. No one would
Right?
know.
I've done this in business meetings. And then I've had like CFOs of companies come around the desk and hug me. They don't even know why. You know, they're like so
That's pretty
jazzed
powerful.
up, right?
Yeah.
It's this, when you see somebody and their eyes are bright and they're, you know, part of it's green juice, sure, part of it's yoga, but the real secret,
The secret sauce.
is sexual energy. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And that's just one way that we can, you know, like let's say we come home from work and we haven't connected with ourselves or our lover sexually in some time and we're thinking, oh, I'm so tired. Well, how would it be to take a bath and do this exercise? And one of the things that all these tools and exercises do is shift us out of the mind
And then into the body.
and into the body and the heart,
I love it.
and connect the body and the heart, so that when we're making love, we have this integration. And it doesn't mean that we can't still, you know, bang the headboard on the wall and swing from the chandeliers. It can still be really passionate and raw, but it can also feel that feeling of you know, love and joy and celebration.
And the way sex should be, right?
It's very fulfilling in every way. And what's beautiful too about this kind of practice and this way of approaching our sexuality is that we then enjoy each other's differences. You know, my partner might have something that they enjoy, I might have something different. And we can both explore together and sort of add to the excitement. And I think the key too, from the tantric perspective, is that as a tantrika is always in awe and wonder of anything that's going on. They're always looking and thinking, what is this, you know, and have an openness. And how fun is that sexually,
So fun, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it keeps opening the door to exploration instead of thinking, oh, I know how she likes it, I know how he likes it, I better perform, which becomes dry really fast.
Yeah.
And people become sexually disconnected after, you know, what do they say, you get 7 years or something, 5 years, sometimes it's 4 years of great sex, and it doesn't have to ever wane.
You can, what is it, get back to the bed, get back in bed?
Get back in bed
we can all
now.
get back in bed now. Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're
This
so
is
welcome.
so incredible. Guys, to learn more, you can go to doncartwright.com. And until next time, stay fancy, fabulous, and fun. And have orgasms.
Yay!
To find out more, go to doncartwright.com. And until next time, I'm Lauren Ebersol. Stay fancy, fabulous, and fun.